FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1.
Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports. This is the JP Show.
JP, it is so good to hear you back on the air.
Stand by. Now, here's JP.
All right, welcome in to a Monday edition of the JP Peterson Show after what was a crazy, absolute crazy sports weekend, both locally, both nationally as well. And we're going to dive into it all today. Obviously, today I'm your host, Nick Geddes. I'm alone. JP is wheels up, which we told y'all last week. He is on his way to beautiful Aspen in Colorado with his family on a nice skiing trip. So he's currently on a plane, I believe, at this moment. So he will not be with us today. He's going to try to be back with us for majority of the week while he's up there as well. See, he's still working as he goes on vacation. He insists on still working while he goes on vacation. So we'll talk to him probably tomorrow. But today we're obviously going to get into the Rays after a great weekend of baseball. We're going to get into the Lightning after a big win over the Islanders. We're probably going to talk more women's college hoops than we ever have on this show today, because the storylines coming out of that game yesterday between Iowa and LSU, I'm sure everybody has seen it by now. Even divisive storylines. I think it's great for women's college basketball. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into the men's game tonight, UConn and San Diego State, and kind of wrap up some of the things we saw in the Final Four matchups this weekend. And then, of course, the wrestling fan that I am, it was WrestleMania the last two nights. Fantastic. We're going to get into that as well. I won't be alone for most of this show, as a good friend of mine, Sean Green, is going to co-host with me. He's going to jump on around 10:30 today, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff pertaining to the college basketball, the wrestling. He might even get into some kind of Magic stuff. He used to work with the Magic, so he's very invested into that as well. So he'll be joining us at 10:30. Went to school together. We do a show, the UCF Charge On podcast for Bleav Network. So he's going to join us at 10:30. Kevin Weiss, Locked On Rays, is going to join us at 11:30. And we'll go a little bit more deeper into what happened this weekend with the Rays. And then Chris Lugo is going to be back with us as well at 11:45, and we'll get into health and nutrition. So still got a big show today, but we'll jump into it. And I'm going to start with the Rays because I think that was the most important thing we saw. And I already see Buck's Basement here in the chat saying he's not excited about sweeping the Tigers. Listen, the Tigers are a very, very bad baseball team. I think we knew that going into the season, but they are really, really bad. Maybe not as bad as the A's, but they're pushing it. Comedy of errors all week for the Tigers. Can't hit, can't pitch, can't defend, all those things. But you expect the Rays to come out there and throttle that team, and that's what they did largely for 3 games. So that's the encouraging thing. The Rays did this weekend what we expected them to do. And they didn't leave any room for error for the Tigers to take advantage. They completely just stomped on them all week. And that's what you needed the Rays to do. And I'll go even further. There's not much perfect, obviously, that you're going to find, but that was a perfect weekend for the Rays. That really was. I mean, you outscore a team 21-3 like the Rays did. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. And then you factor in the energy in the building. And we talk so much about the stadium not having an energy. And you put all those people. We had, I want to say, close to 70,000 people across all 3 games there in the Trop for an opening weekend. And I know it's an opening weekend. You're always going to have, an attendance like that. But it just felt a little different this time around with the energy, the buzz. There seemed to be more of an excitement for people to go to this opening series. And when you pitch like the Rays did, by the way, and, I'm going to get into this as well because MLB.com came out with a list before the season, and it was top 10 starting rotations in Major League Baseball. The Rays were not even in the top 10. Weren't even in the top 10. Now, mind you, the Rays finished in the top 7, top 5 in pitching in every number. ERA, whip, batting average against, strikeouts, all of those things. The Rays finish in the top 5 in MLB every single year in those categories. And this year, MLB.com didn't think they were going to have a top 10 rotation. After what we saw this week, and I know it's against the lowly Tigers, but I think we expected to see the pitching shine through. How can you even make the argument that there's 5 teams that have a better rotation? Can you make the argument for 3? can you make the argument for any team at the moment? I mean, seriously. 17 innings between Shane McClanahan, Zach Eflin, and Jeffrey Springs. They gave up 1 run. 1 run in 3 games. That's it. And Jeffrey Springs in particular yesterday, if we were in the middle of June, if we were in the middle of July, Jeffrey Springs is pushing a no-hit bid probably into the 8th inning, or who knows what happens. So before anybody gets all, up in the airs about that, nobody is letting their starter go past 85 to 90 pitches on opening day or the first weekend. It ain't happening. Jeffrey Springs was taken out of the game, and I think that was a good thing. And I know it's ironic that Poche comes in there and he immediately gives up the hit, and everybody, loses their mind about that. But Jeffrey Springs, if he continues to be like this, he'll get this opportunity when we get further in the season, because yesterday he literally was unhittable. 12 strikeouts, just the 1 walk. The command was there. Building off what he did in the spring, he was 14 shutout innings in the spring. And clearly he did not use up all those shutout innings, because the Tigers had literally zero answer. Another guy, too, we got the contract in the offseason. And I'll admit, too, I mean, I'm always leery of giving guys a lot of money after 1 year, especially in a case like Jeffrey Springs, who is 30, I believe. So this was kind of a late bloomer. And then he gets paid and everything. And I know we want the Rays to pay our players, but I still was a little bit like, okay, I got to see something from Jeffrey Springs. But he looks to be even better. It looks like he's hiding the ball more. I mean, even righties had a tough time dealing with him. It was just a masterful performance. It was enjoyable to watch. They were moving the game along. We were in the 5th inning, the bottom of the 5th, and the game had only been on for an hour. I mean, the pitch clock, again, I couldn't be any more wrong about it in the beginning of the year. This has changed baseball for the better. I'm watching more baseball than I ever have right now. I was glued to my television all 3 games for the Rays. I love the pace of play. So just a great day for the Rays yesterday, and a great day all weekend. But it wasn't just Jeffrey Springs. The bats came to life a little bit yesterday after the onslaught from Saturday, where they had 12 runs on the Tigers. But it, of course, was Randy Arozarena who got them started in the 4th inning off Joey Wentz, who had a nice start to the game. But then Randy got him here in the 4th inning for his first home run of the season.
Is it fair or foul?
No, nothing that ever comes to mind.
High shot, deep into left. That baby's gonna go out of here.
Yeah, that was a bomb. 436 feet for Randy Arozarena. I want to say it was 110 off the bat. And that pitch, by the way that was, it was just below the knees. It is hard to really go down there and get that, especially at the velocity. And Randy clearly got all barrel on that and kind of muscled that out completely. 436 feet, like I said. I tell you what, Randy Arozarena is a player that we talked about coming to the season, where we're going to get more consistency out of him. And even he admitting that I haven't probably studied as well as I need to, right? And if that's going to have a difference on his play. And I think in general, he's had fantastic at-bats here for the opening weekend, like many of these guys have. I mean, hitting's contagious, and I tell you what, the guy who leads the way, it's the guy who literally needs to lead the way. He should lead the way, and that's Wander Franco as well. Wander Franco, after 3 games, is tops in Major League Baseball in batting average. He's hitting .636, Wander Franco, .636. And he did everything this week. I mean, jack of all trades he really was in these 3 games. He hit for singles. He hit doubles. He hit a homer. He steals a bag. He plays flawless defense. Like, the 5-tool potential of Wander Franco is there, and it's something that we just unfortunately haven't been able to see yet. And a lot of that comes to the fact that he's been injured. I mean, let's face it, he just has been injured. Last year was a big nothing year for him, and I kept saying, I said, if the Rays are going to get to where they want to be, the Rays need Wander Franco to figure out what kind of player he's going to be. Because potential is all those things, but when you put him next to the Juan Sotos of the world, when you put him next to the Ronald Acuñas of the world, the Vlad Guerreros, because these were the prospects he was compared to. And people were calling him like one of these generational type hitters. It's a lot of pressure for a guy, and he gets the contract and everything. And, he did this last year, too, where he came out hot, and it's just 3 games. But I think clearly he's dialed in, and the rest of the team is taking notice. I mean, the 3 big standouts in the lineup for the weekend were Wander Franco, Randy Arozarena, and I'll throw Jose Siri in there. And those were kind of the 3 guys I said, they're going to be your most exciting players. And you kind of have them all at different parts of the lineup with Wander up top, Randy right in the middle, and then Jose at the bottom. Now, he moved up a little bit yesterday because he's been hitting so well. But those are 3 guys that I think I'm most excited about with what we saw this weekend. And Siri continuing to build off of it as well. We'll get to his right here because he had a 2 RBI single, and this was in the 6th inning with the bases loaded with Jason Foley on the mound for the Tigers. He didn't have much command, and this was the 2 RBI single from Jose Siri to put this game really away.
Ground ball up the middle, base hit. Rayleigh scores. Arozarena heads to the plate. Over to third goes Lau. Siri on the first pitch jumped on it, sent it right back through the middle, and
yeah, there it was. They made it 4-0, and then from there it was all about the bullpen for the Rays. They didn't have to overuse anybody this week. Like I said, you give up just 3 runs. You take that every single day, and now they move on to Washington tonight, and Washington is, again, not a great baseball team. The schedule makers did the Rays a favor. When you get to start out with Detroit, Washington, and Oakland, I mean, would I love for the Rays to win 9 of these 10 games? Of course. I'm sure they're going to lose 1 or 2 or whatever, but regardless, again, great opportunity for the Rays to get out in front of the AL East. A great opportunity for them to do that, and based on the way they played this week, I think they will probably get there, but let's go play some Kevin Cash from yesterday, who obviously was very excited to see what he saw from his ball club.
All right, we'll start with Jeffrey Springs. How masterful was he? Those 12 strikeouts and 6 no-hit innings.
Yeah, really, really good. Just overall, yeah, we talked about the camp that he had. He might have gotten a little bit better from into Game 3. That was just an outstanding performance. Ton of swing and miss, ton of called strikes. His stuff is probably playing at an all-time high, and he's putting it to use about as good as you can possibly do.
A sweep to start the season, seeing the offense do what they did, and your starting rotation the last 3 games. Pretty good way to start.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask for much more. The guys have we've pitched well, we've played good defense behind, and we've had an offense breakout yesterday, but some big timely hits in the Game 1 and Game 3. So we should be pretty happy.
Jose Siri has 5 RBI, I believe, in 3 games. Are you liking what you're seeing from him at the plate?
Yeah, he's having good at bats. Even that last one, we just want contact right there. Baez made a nice play, but Jose's come up big for us with a 2-run double and then a 2-run single. Not trying to do too much. I think that's been the message that Motor has given him, and kind of stay in the moment a little bit, and he's certainly doing that.
How tough was the decision on Springs?
Out of respect to Jeffrey, tough, but other than that, not really. I mean, sometimes we got to protect them from themselves. Totally respect the magnitude of throwing 6 no-hit innings. Kind of gut-wrenching. I apologize to him, but I felt like sometimes we just got to make some decisions that are best for the team.
Did you go down and tell him or make Kyle do the dirty work?
No, I did. I wouldn't do that to Kyle. They need to like Kyle. If they don't like me, it's okay.
You mentioned stuff playing at an all-time high. Is it anything different or just execution?
I think the only minor thing is that he's kind of reworked his breaking ball. But, the pitch execution has been so elite. And when you see those guys somewhat predictable as, fastball changeup for the most part to the righties, it's just telling. They're major league hitters that are swinging through pitches and couldn't time them up.
Yeah, he was just absolutely fantastic. I think if you probably were to compare Springs to all the other pitching performances of the weekend in the 3 to 4 games that every team played, he probably had the performance of the entire weekend. Jeffrey Springs did. And just to see how rare this was, by the way, I found this stat this morning, and this is just one of those mind-blowing stats. And here it was, from 1901 to 2020, there had never been a pitcher to allow 0 hits while striking out 12-plus hitters in his first start of the season. And all of a sudden now, it's been done 3 years in a row. Jose Barrios did it in 2021 with Minnesota. Clayton Kershaw did it with the Dodgers in 2022. And now Jeffrey Springs does it this year for your Rays. And, I mean, again, I go back to the original comment from MLB.com where the Rays didn't have a top 10 rotation. The Rays are sending out their quote-unquote four, tonight in Drew Rasmussen. When Tyler Glasnow gets back, Drew Rasmussen is their number 5. I mean, how many staffs around the league is Drew Rasmussen a number 2? Last year, he was the number 2 for this staff. And this year, the Rays are basically telling you he's our 5. But not a top 10 rotation. Not a top 10 rotation. And I don't mean to harp on it as much because it's just a list at the end of the day. It's just, this happens every year where the Rays continue to get undervalued across the league. They do. We say all the time we'd love for them to spend some more money on offense, but when it comes to pitching, this is what the Rays do. I don't worry much about what the Rays are doing pitching, who they want to acquire, who they want to go trade, or this or that. I trust them completely because of the track record. And it's like at this point, it's like, is it ignorance for why you continue to tell me that the Rays aren't going to have this great rotation no matter what because Glasnow got hurt or anything? Like for other teams, I'm sure that's an issue if someone gets hurt, like the Yankees, how they're going to manage without Rodon. But I don't worry about the Rays without Tyler Glasnow. The Rays have pitched without Tyler Glasnow for a majority of his time here, and they've been fine. Would it be nice to have him healthy? Of course, and they're going to get there when we get to May. But at the moment, this is scary. And again, I challenge you to find a better rotation than this one for the Rays. And even the bullpen. The bullpen was locked down all weekend long as well. Again, as perfect as a weekend it could get for your Tampa Bay Rays. And last clip here, because I definitely want to spread my flowers to him, is Jeffrey Springs. Here was him in the locker room after briefly with the media.
All right, Jeffrey, 6 no-hit innings. What a performance. 12 strikeouts. Describe how you were feeling on the mound today.
I felt pretty good. I felt like I was able to mix and move pretty well. Felt like, the fastball was pretty good early, and then just trying to use the secondary pitches off of that. They got some good hitters over there, so just trying to, continue to mix and move. Pitched, my strengths, things that I like to do with speed up hitters and slow them down, kind of pick and choose when to throw the fastball. But overall, I felt like I was able to, spin it well and, kind of keep them off balance.
We know you're a competitor, and Cash mentioned sometimes they feel like they need to protect you guys from yourselves. What was your reaction when Cash told you weren't going back out there?
I mean, obviously, like you said, as a competitor, you want to pitch. I've said that before. I want to pitch as much as possible, but that's not my job to, look ahead and manage and all that. That's up to him. I'm gonna go out there until he takes the ball, and I trust him 100%. So obviously, I wanted to go back out there, but. Again, that's not my job. My job's to pitch until he takes the ball, and he said I was done. So, it is what it is.
Did you get a chance for rebuttal?
No. There's no, he knows I want to be out there. He knows how we are. We want to compete. So nothing needs to be said. He knows I'm going to pitch as long as he lets me. So when he says I'm done, I'm done. So, and I respect his decision.
Walking off with 81 pitches, were you thinking that he might pull you, or were you trying to hide from him, or what?
I honestly didn't know where I was at, pitch count-wise. I felt like I had some quick outs, so I felt like I was, in pretty good shape. Didn't feel, too tired or anything, so I thought I was in a good spot. But again, when he says I'm done, I'm not going to question him whatsoever. That's his job to manage. My job's just to pitch. So. So I'm good with it. Hopefully there's another opportunity that I can talk my way into it, maybe next time down the road.
Yeah, again, like I said, if Jeffrey's doing that in June or July, I think Kevin Cash will let him go just a little bit. But definitely not an opening day, or an opening week, rather. No controversy there at all. And again, I'll bring this comment up here from Richie. He says, RE Rays beating the Tigers. I never fault a team for doing what they're supposed to do. I've seen enough over the years to know a mediocre team loses 1 or 2 against a team they are favored over. And that is true. I mean, the Yankees, they dropped a game to the Giants this week who aren't very good. We saw Boston drop one to Baltimore. We saw it all over the league. I mean, the only 2 teams really that went up against inferior opponents completely and blew them away was the Rays and the Twins. And then the Rangers, obviously, a surprise sweep over the Phillies. Those are your only 3 undefeated teams through the first opening weekend, are the Rays, Twins, and Rangers. So good for the Rays there. So, yeah, you don't know. They did what they're supposed to do. They did what they're supposed to do, and there's a good energy to me around this team right now. And that's why I said I was a little bit more optimistic as we got closer and closer to the season, when you kind of just separate the fact that, okay, they didn't get the big bopper, but the things that you needed to see from this team in the first 3 games, I think you saw. And even the guys that they're counting on to be those guys, like Josh Lowe, I think he hit the ball hard all weekend. I really do. Yesterday, he ripped one down the line into the corner for a double, which was good to see. We saw Luke Raley on opening day get one in as well. So I think the things that the Rays needed to see, they had today. And Luke W. also chimes in here. Cleveland getting 3 out of 4 in Seattle is interesting. Cleveland, to me, is just like the Rays. They're just like the Rays. I mean, they continue to be undervalued every single year. I don't think anybody had them winning that division last year, and they go out and win it. It wasn't really close, in my opinion. And then they go out and obviously, they beat the Rays 2-0 in the wild card. And Seattle's a team that had a lot of hype coming in. Great pitching staff, but they didn't have it going on this weekend, obviously, at home, even though they had a great atmosphere, by the way, which was cool to see. And speaking of the Guardians as well, I've seen this a lot more on social media, and we talked about it a little bit on Friday. The banner raising on opening day for the wild card from last year. It was labeled as, I want to say it might have been Barstool who posted it, but it's already been labeled the most embarrassing banner raising of all time. When you score 1 run in 24 innings and you put that up there. And I said, I was there on Thursday, and I looked around, and I'm seeing people that are all taking pictures and really having a good time about this banner. And I'm like, the standards have been raised in Tampa Bay if you haven't been paying attention. I don't get excited or giddy anymore about them making the playoffs for the wild card, especially when you get blown out like they did, scoring 1 run in 24 innings. Can't say that enough. So, yeah, the banner raise, if you want to put it up, please don't do it as a ceremony like they did. I much preferred what they chose to do yesterday. Before the game, they had the Hall of Fame induction for Don Zimmer. He's the first to go in for the Rays Hall of Fame, and I thought it was great. A lot of pregame stuff that they did with Rich Hollenberg and Doug Wechter, and Doug telling great stories about when he came here and meeting Don Zimmer, and how he put his arm around him and really helped him through some stuff. So that was cool to see, and obviously his wife was still there, 92 years young, and she has energy to her, and she lit up the television screen when she was on. His son was up there as well, speaking at the podium, gave him the nice blazer, the nice trophy. I thought it was fantastically done. You give them all the time they need, and now I can't wait to see what they do when we get to Wade Boggs getting inducted, when we get to Carl Crawford being inducted. I'm very excited about that, and some of the other guys that are going to come in the next couple years. So, in general, you sum up this weekend, it was great on the field, it was great in the stadium, and it was great off the field. There was not any flaw, besides that banner raising, there was not any flaw with the Tampa Bay Rays this weekend. So, and I found that a good thing. We got a few minutes here before we hit break, so I'm going to transition a little bit to what we saw with the Lightning on Saturday. They get a big win over the New York Islanders at home on Amalie. I was down there. I didn't go to the game, but I was down there last night watching it at Yeaman's Cast, which was a really good atmosphere, by the way, if you want to watch a game. And tell you what, the Lightning, again, talk about rounding into form. We were really, not saying the sky was falling, but we had some real concerns about this team as recent as probably early last week. And all they've done since we were really concerned, a 2-1 loss against Boston where they probably played good enough to win, right? And Boston's the best team in the league. They blank Carolina and Carolina 4-0. And then they come back home, 5-1 over Washington and 5-0 over the Islanders. So if you're keeping track there, the Lightning have only surrendered 3 goals. 3 goals in their last 4 games. That's it. And that's coming against Boston, the best team in the league, one of the best teams of all time right now. They might get there. That's coming against Washington, who still had an outside shot to make the playoffs, and they needed to win, and they weren't even close that night. And then against the Islanders, who are in a big playoff spot. They're looking for that last playoff spot. I believe they're fighting with Pittsburgh and Florida. And that's another thing I said. I mean, all the teams that are coming in here at the end, they're all fighting for playoff position. Where's the motivation for the Lightning? And they found it. They have found it. They have gotten back to their structure. They started scoring again. They're shooting more. But defensively, to me, was always going to be the question mark with this team this year. Can they defend? Because you lost a lot of guys off that blue line going. I mean, McDonough was the biggest one. We talked about how Hedman hadn't had a partner for a while. All of a sudden, Darren Radish comes up, and Darren Radish looks the part at the moment. Is he a guy that's going to sneak into the top 4 when we get to, or the top 6 rather, when we get to playoff time? He might. He might. Yeah, I think he even got his first 2 points of his NHL career this week as well. So, again, much like the Rays, it's been almost easy for the Lightning, I'd say, for the last week, and that's something we haven't been able to say about this team for a while. They officially clinched the playoff spot, and it's going to be them in Toronto. And we've known this basically since November when Boston got out to that like 21-1 start or whatever. It was clear, okay, we're going to face Toronto again in the first round, and let's see what happens. And I think Toronto feels a lot better about their chances this time around. But if the Lightning are going to play like this, and track record again the last 3 years tells me this is how they play in the playoffs, I'm not going against them. I'm not going against them at all. They've shown me here at the end of the year they still have that team in them. And the encouraging signs, they got Pat Maroon going when they put him with Killorn and Cirelli. Tanner Jeannot, who all of a sudden is starting to look more noticeable out there. He kind of looks like Brandon Hagel out there from last year. If you remember, Hagel got here, couldn't buy a goal, right? It was almost comical. He just could not buy a goal. And Jeannot did the same thing against Washington, where he had multiple opportunities and he just couldn't get to go in. He's grabbing the stick a lot right now. But he had 8 hits, right? And that's what he was really brought here to do. And then he finally gets that goal against the Islanders. So now he's off the schneid. I'm sure he feels good about himself. You know, Cooper's really been talking him in the media lately. I think that's the guy that's going to be key for them when they get to the stretch. It kind of reminds me of Hagel, because once we got to playoff time last year, Hagel was a lot more noticeable. So it's kind of mirroring, I think, what you saw last year with this team. And, again, I think it's a lot to feel good about. So let's go play some Cooper from Saturday night, who obviously was pleased with the effort from the Lightning.
6th straight season to clinch a playoff spot.
Well, you have no chance to win a Stanley Cup unless you make the playoffs. And people, when they talk about winning cups, we don't even talk about that. It's about getting in the playoffs, and then you can start putting your focus there. But it is a really hard league to win in. And to go through the stretch we've gone through, and in my tenure, we've only missed once. My, I guess, full season tenure, and I don't know. Like I look at this group, and they've done it so many different ways with just different players. And yes, we've had that same core group, but there's like 10 or 12 players that did not win a Stanley Cup with us, and yet here they are finding their way back into the playoffs and have a chance to get 100 points again. And in a league that is where parity is kind of pushed and something that is kind of accepted in this league, the fact that this group keeps finding their ways to get in is pretty remarkable. And that's why you gotta, I look around the league and I really tip your hat to a team like Pittsburgh that's done it for year in, year out. But the goal is to win Stanley Cups, and you can't do it unless you punch your ticket. And once again, they've done it, and really proud of the players.
That core group, what have they meant the last 4 or 5 games to try and get the team back on track?
Well, they've been leading by example. There's no doubt about that. But I think we're starting to find a little identity with our team, and we've played some really good teams of late. And don't get me wrong, this score is not indicative of that team that we just played. We're playing playoff teams, and we've gone through Boston and Carolina and now the Islanders, and yeah, we didn't win them all, but we've been pretty darn competitive in them. But when you're not giving up the chances we're giving up, and you're giving up between 0 and 2 goals every game, you're really giving yourself a chance to win, but you're also kind of playing games that you have to play in the playoffs. And so it's been nice to see that this whole group is kind of bought in down the stretch here.
Coach, are you kind of getting your second wind as a team now, getting ready to go to the playoffs?
I don't know. It's hard to get a second win when you're playing the amount of games we've played. As I said, we went into the All-Star break, played the least amount of games, and now I think we've played the most amount of games. And so it's been a tough stretch for this group. That's why it's pretty impressive what they've done here of late. The fact that we don't have to lace the skates on for couple days is, I don't think that's happened since the All-Star break. And so I'm glad the guys took care of business before we went on this road trip. And it's just about fine-tuning our game and making sure we're clicking on all cylinders here when playoffs start.
You had it, Tanner, Mikey, Darren's call up. Do you sense those guys are starting to figure out their roles and where they fit in with this team?
I've said this, I don't know, I think year in and year out, it's a 10-game window before you even start to see where things go with the players, when they start to feel comfortable, when you start to kind of know what they bring to the table. And I think we're seeing that definitely now with Tanner. And you talk about a balloon of frustration popping when he scored that goal. The guys on the bench are so fired up for him. And then, Ratty too. Ratty gets his first NHL points. And so it's, you get a good group of guys when they're really pulling for guys to get those pseudo milestones. And so it's great to see.
Yep, they are rounding into form, like Cooper said. It's about those fine-tuning and the details. And again, nobody should ever doubt the Lightning when we get to the postseason. I might have been guilty of it earlier, about 2 weeks ago. But besides that, nobody should doubt the Lightning when it comes to the postseason. All right, we'll take our first break, and when we return, Sean Green, a good friend of mine, we host the UCF podcast, Charge On, together on the Bleav Network. He's going to join me. We're going to get into some other stuff from this weekend. Like I said, it was busy. College basketball, both women's and men's. Tonight we got the men's final. Yesterday we had the women's final. Some interesting storylines from there. We'll get into that and some other stuff as well. Stay with us, and we will return after the break.
Guys, are you experiencing those feelings of getting older, lower sex drive, fatigue, hot flashes, moodiness, or you just don't feel like you had the vitality you once had? It's a chronic problem here in the United States. You're not just getting old, it's likely low testosterone. Studies over the last 20 years show a shocking decline in younger males aged 16 to 39. Older men have seen a sharp decline as well, so do something about it. Go see my friend Christopher Lugo at Bay Area Modern Medicine. Look, testosterone replacement is not a frivolous treatment. It takes a professional, targeted approach that focuses on total body wellness, vitality, and emotional stability, not a one-size-fits-all approach like many clinics use. They will monitor your blood work and adjust your treatment as needed for optimal results. Folks, I've been on testosterone therapy for over 6 years, and it is a life changer. You will feel and look better than you did 10 years ago. Give them a call at 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. Tell them JP sent you for priority scheduling. That's 844-977-3477 or BAMMC.com. JP here for the Jeeves Law Group. Have you been injured in an accident, in an auto accident, truck accident, motorcycle accident, at work, or at a place of business? Well, call the Jeeves Law Group and get the personal attention that you deserve. I made the mistake many years ago with going with one of the bigger law firms, the national law firms. And let me tell you, getting a call back from those folks was next to impossible. Weeks and weeks would go by, never get a call back. That doesn't happen with the Jeeves Law Group. Personal attention is what they're all about. When you call the Jeeves Law Group, you will be part of the family. They will represent you in a vigorous and aggressive way against the insurance companies. These larger companies will promise bigger settlements, but it's the Jeeves Law Group that will get you the best results. If you're tired of dealing with these bigger law firms, check out the Jeeves Law Group. Go to JeevesLawGroup.com, tell them JP sent you, get a free consultation. It's the Jeeves Law Group. Scott Jeeves has been representing clients in the Tampa Bay area for over 25 years. Give them a call. It's a free call, 727-894-2929, 727-894-2929, or go to JeevesLawGroup.com. Hey guys, JP here for the Gold and Diamond Source. There is no better place to shop for jewelry than the Gold and Diamond Source. We know that. They are the family jewelers and they will treat you like family. It's always a fun experience. Just head on over there. You will not find a better selection anywhere in the world. It's a jewelry supercenter. They've got engagement rings, necklaces, earrings, pendants, chains, and thousands of diamonds to choose from. They're all right there. They don't have to ship anything in. They have jewelry for every price range as well. Guys, if you're looking for some of those baller watches, they have a great selection. They have new and used. You can get some great collectibles there as well. And if you're looking for some more affordable gold and diamond jewelry, you have to check out the Emily collection from Emily Johnson Weintraub. Emily created this collection for people who want to wear and stack elaborate jewelry but don't want to pay the big ticket prices. You got to check this stuff out. The Golden Diamond Source has plenty of options to accommodate any budget, interest-free financing for up to 5 years, and a layaway program, 20% down and only 6 monthly payments. And this month only, get up to 15% off the March birthstone, which is aquamarine. Like we always say, keep it local, folks. The Golden Diamond Source, Julie and Steve Weintraub, such great philanthropic benefactors. So let's keep it all local here when we have the opportunity, right? It's the Golden Diamond Source, 3800 Olmerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com. All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do 5,000 crunches. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body machine where you can reduce fat and tone up your muscle. It's like doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Define your body as you see fit. True Body offers personalized muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on True Body and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Insurance coverage can be confusing and expensive. I mean, where do you start? Which companies can you count on to pay out fast and fair? Well, call the great folks at Italiano Insurance. It's a family-owned business. Jeff and Nat Italiano are carrying on the 60-year-plus tradition of giving amazing customer service and giving back to the community through their annual backpack drive for needy students and their support of the local pediatric cancer patients. But it's the customer service that sets them apart. They can shop all your insurance needs and save you big-time money. Don't hop on the internet and waste time looking at some bogus reviews. Talk to knowledgeable agents and not some voice-generated robot. These are confusing times for homeowners, and Italiano's team of experienced professionals can provide the right coverage for every situation. Home, auto, business, life. It's Italiano for all the pieces of your life. Call 813-877-7799 or go to ItalianoInsurance.com.
Let's go. Right now. Back to the show with JP on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here on a Monday, brought to you by Bay Area Modern Medical Center. And as a reminder, we're going to speak to Chris Lugo at 11:45 today. He's going to return. He got into a car accident actually last week, so that's why he could not join us, but he's feeling a lot better, so he'll be on with us again at 11:45. But right now, I'm going to welcome in a very good friend of mine, a special friend of mine, actually, might I add. I'm probably gassing up a little bit too much as I bring him in here now. Mr. Sean Green, who is the host of the UCF Charge On podcast for Bleav Network, which I jump on with him from time to time on that as well. So, Sean, this is kind of cool because for the viewers who don't know, I've talked about it a little bit. We were a part of Hitting the Field at UCF, a student-run kind of podcasting network, which you kind of contributed to the boom of this there at UCF, I would probably say.
Yeah.
You gave me my first chance to go on there, and we hosted some shows together on there, and now we host a show together with UCF, and now you're on this show. So this is a pretty cool moment.
I appreciate it, Nick. Yeah, I mean, it is a really cool moment. I love the JP Peterson Show. I listen to you guys every day, mostly for you, Nick. But went to college together, did a lot of great things, and now doing a UCF pod. So really happy that you invited me on and excited to talk whatever you got in the cards for us today.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. Since you're coming on today, I'll avoid the USF talk today because I know you're incapable of having a real discussion about the Bulls. The UCF fandom gets in the way a little bit. You know me. I'm very hardcore when it comes to UCF too when we get on there. So we'll leave the USF stuff away. But speaking of college sports, though, I mentioned it. As I get that fixed, I see you, Richie. But anyway, so this weekend we had the women's Final Four and the women's national championship yesterday afternoon. And, women's college basketball is something that I think this year has really been great from a product standpoint.
Yeah.
The ratings have been high for it. I was tuned in yesterday because I, like everybody, wanted to see Caitlin Clark. She has become a superstar in the college basketball world, especially taking her Iowa team, which I think if you take Caitlin Clark off that team, I mean, I'm sure they're a tournament team, but not a high seed by any means. They knock off a team that had won 34 in a row, defending national champs in South Carolina against LSU, Kim Mulkey, right, in her second year. And I got to tell you, Sean, that was a damn good showcase, I thought. What would you think?
It was. And I think, Nick, here's the thing. Us sports fans, last however many years, right? Women want respect, especially in basketball, right? WNBA, that has been the talking point for the last couple of years, is we need more eyes on our game. And to be honest, there hasn't been players that have really resonated with fans, both male and female, right? Because, listen, I want more sports to watch. I would love to watch WNBA college or women's sports. Caitlin Clark is the first person in years that got me excited to watch women's sports, women's college basketball. She's been putting up numbers. I was looking through her stats today because I'm like, listen, she's averaging 27.8 points per game. I'm like, I want to see what team has given her trouble this year. Not one team. She has scored 20 points at least in every single game. So it's really exciting to have a player like that and even perform. Listen, they lost, and it wasn't really close. It was a good game for one point, and LSU kind of just took it. But she still put up 30 points. I mean, to have a player like that, and hopefully, I don't know, she's coming back next year. To have her in the WNBA one day, that gets me excited. And hopefully, over the next couple years, you're going to see more Caitlin Clarks of the world in the college game.
Yeah, we had this discussion last week. It's like we always have like these college phenoms in regards to women's basketball. I mean, think Candace Parker, think Breanna Stewart, think Paige Buchers, I believe, at UConn the last couple years, right? Sabrina Ionescu. And then they get to the WNBA, and it's like we almost forget about them a little bit. Like, it doesn't seem like the audience follows them there, right? And I feel like the NBA kind of has that same problem too. So I want to be more invested in women's basketball from a pro level. I would love to. I'm not trying to shut it down by any means, but all I know is I was invested in this tournament. A lot of people were more excited for this Final Four than the men's Final Four, and I understand why some people were. But yesterday, to your point, Caitlin Clark, her team did not come out on top, and I don't think she played that well, but she was suffocated. And this is a great coach can almost steal a tournament, I feel like, and really kind of will you to certain wins in a college basketball tournament. And Kim Mulkey, with all the experience that she has, they played it perfectly. Alexis Morris was all over her, draped on her for most of the game. They got her in some foul trouble. They got her to kind of lose her cool for a second. Now she gets an awful technical foul. And I mean, just obviously a little frustrated. She kind of just tosses the ball behind her. And this was one of the storylines of this game. Bad officiating. How many times do we do this with big games? We come back on the show. We did this with the Super Bowl. I feel like half of the show, the day after the Super Bowl, was about the officiating. And yesterday, the officiating was downright awful. A disgrace on a national level. The technical foul that was called on her. Kim Mulkey, the entire time, is standing on the court. She ran into the official once. Nothing. Like, I don't understand.
And this is the problem. I mean, it happens with every sport, but let's be real. The next morning, after a national championship game, nobody's talking about the game.
Exactly.
They're talking about two things that happened that had really nothing to do with the outcome. So it's annoying, but that's every sport. It becomes that narrative of what went wrong, what didn't people like about this, what's the talking point, and now we're coming on to the next day talking about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and saying, is it acceptable, is it not? Instead of LSU dominating a game and beating a generational player to come into women's college basketball. That's the talking point. Is it upsetting? Sure. But, the technical foul, Nick, like you brought it up, insane to me.
Yeah.
Insane. Like, I've seen some bad NBA technical fouls over the last couple months because the NBA officiating has been poor, to say the least. That is insane. And now you wonder why some people don't respect or don't want to watch these games. It's because of stuff like that. Because you should let them play. I mean, again, best player on the court last night was her, and she tossed the ball, rolls it out of bounds, and he called for a tee. Absolutely absurd, absolutely ridiculous. And again, the NCAA really needs to get that stuff figured out with the refs for both the men's and women's side. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like I don't like talking about the officiating the next day. I hate that we have to do that, but sometimes it's required. I think in this case is one of them. The other storyline that you alluded to, I tell you what, you mentioned, we're talking about two things that have nothing to do with the game. This one to me, I'm so up in the air about.
Yeah.
Think about it. I can't remember the last time on a Monday after a women's college basketball game that we've actually still been talking about the game or anything surrounding the game. I'm honest. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
I can't recall how much publicity this has gotten. It's all over the place. Yesterday for On 3, it was content like crazy with everything that she was saying, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, and this whole feud, I guess, that was going on. And I'll tell you where I'll land, then I'll get your take.
Yeah.
I've seen everybody have their opinion on this, and that Caitlin Clark did the same thing in the South Carolina game and has been kind of talking all tournament. I've seen all that. Okay. I'm not typically a fan of those things. I think when Angel Reese did it this time, it might have rubbed me a different way because I think it was because it was nonstop. It was nonstop, and it was more so when the game ended. I got no problem with what happens during the game. Competitive nature, I love it. We let the men compete. We need to let the women compete. That's my league. I think what initially rubbed me the wrong way was it was after the game, and the first thing I see as confetti is coming down is it felt like she was chasing Caitlin Clark a little bit around the court over and over, doing this thing with the ring and the you can't see me. Again, during the game, I really don't have a problem with it. Like when she did it at the free throw line, I actually laughed a little bit. When I saw it after the game, I was like, can we move on a little bit? And then, her kind of saying she felt disrespected and this and that. So that was me. But then I saw Caitlin Clark after the game. It didn't really seem to bother her. So then I was like, should it really bother me then at that point if it didn't bother Caitlin Clark? I don't know. My final take on it really was we're talking about women's college basketball on a Monday after a big sports weekend.
Facts.
Controversy creates interest. It just happens, right? So that was my kind of take on it. I want to hear what you got.
I have a similar take. I played basketball for 15 years, and something that I've always taken on, and a lot of NBA players share the same mantra, is if you're going to talk the entire game. Don't talk at the end when you're up by 20 and act like you're some big hot shot and have been, killing it all game and have been talking all game. And at the end, you show respect. Angel Reese is a phenomenal player.
Yes.
Her averages are insane. Again, she was the second best player in this tournament, no question. Even on an off game, it was a very efficient game, 15, 10, and 5. You can't ask for anything more from your best player. Listen, I understand where the argument is coming from. I understand all that. I think that is the wrong argument to have, right? It came down to LSU had the game won, and I get it. Caitlin Clark did the same thing a game prior, right? But that was like a 2-second, you can't see me, walk away. She wasn't doing it. Like you said, Angel was basically doing circles to make sure Caitlin Clark saw her, to make sure of it. To Clark's, good for Clark, though. She wasn't letting it affect her. She was walking away, didn't really care about it. And again, what are you going to talk crap? They're up 20. But it did rub me the wrong way in the sense of the game's already over. You weren't talking all game. And it wasn't like Caitlin Clark was very respectful prior to this matchup. She said, we're not going to guard LSU the way we guarded South Carolina, right? She could have come out and said, yeah, I don't think they'll make shots over me. I'm going to stand back into the paint and let them shoot triples. Like, that's what it's going to be. But no, she was very respectful. So I don't like the narrative it's taken over the last 24 hours. I think that's the wrong narrative to have. I agree. I love we're talking about women's basketball. I think it's great. But I think the narrative has to be, if you're going to talk the entire game. But let's be real, LSU. You knew the type of player she was. You were scared to face her. and you came out on top because you're the better team, but do it the entire game. If you're going to talk, do it the entire game, not the last 20 seconds where you already have the game won.
And she might have done it during the game. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but it was just so highlighted. It's like, again, I mean, I see people like all having a take, and everybody says it's a non-issue. Why are you even talking about it? There's no reason to get up in arms about it. It's like, listen, I can have an opinion the other way.
Yeah.
Right? And the other thing that it's kind of turned into is a lot of people saying, okay, well, you didn't care when Caitlin Clark did it. Now, that's fair. I will say that's fair. I didn't see one thing about Caitlin Clark doing it, even though it wasn't in the manner that Angel Reese did it. I didn't see one thing about Caitlin Clark doing it, so I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Now we want to have this discussion. But it's turned, like all things, into a very divisive topic, right? And I think you would probably understand to what I'm alluding to there without even saying it. And it's unfortunate, in my opinion, because I don't think that's never where my mind went. But that's kind of, again, what it's turned into, that if you have this, like, opposite take, there you go.
I think it's good just to have, again, do I agree with doing it in the last 20 seconds? No, and I allude to your point where I don't know if she was talking the whole game or whatever. It was excessive. I mean, she was searching it out. But
she admitted that.
Yeah, she admitted it. She wanted her to know she was doing it. But to the positive point, I love that. Like, why is the NBA game so fun? Is because every night you're getting a matchup, whether it's on, the Bucks Heat with Jimmy Butler, Giannis, or vice versa, whoever in the NBA.
When they play.
You're getting a good matchup, and there's talk usually the entire game with whatever team you're playing. One player on one team is gonna talk.
Yeah.
The women's game, you don't have characters. And that's why the women's game has kind of just not resonated, because you don't have characters.
Yeah.
If Caitlin Clark put up 5 points per game, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, but she talked the entire game, she was an elite defender, guess what? Somebody's going to cover that. Because if she's making plays, regardless, it's just great she puts up 30 points, but the women's game needs more characters. And I think regardless of what your opinion is on this, I'm glad that women's college basketball is getting some of those characters and putting more eyeballs on the game.
Yeah, I think it was a slam dunk, because everybody's always asking, how do you grow the women's game? And this is in all sports, by the way.
Yeah.
But specifically basketball, I feel like we've been having this discussion for a long time. The Brittany Griner stuff brought it to the forefront because there was a reason why she had to go play in Russia to begin with. Now, we can have the debate about, okay, well, how much money are you bringing in? Like, there's all that kind of stuff that factors into it. But at the end of the day, I think that the game of basketball, women's college basketball, similarly how I felt about baseball with the World Baseball Classic, to me now we can say it has grown in the last month. There's
100%.
no doubt about it. Even Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, this kind of rivalry that they have now, I saw they each gained over 400,000 followers on Instagram, each of them, over the last month. I mean, people were paying attention.
Yeah.
People were paying attention. I'd like to see the numbers, the rating that it got yesterday. It was on the mothership, ABC. I certainly was tuned into it. I was invested into it. I thought it was a great product, other than the fact that the officials kind of got a little bit too involved. But again, a big step for the women's game. But we'll transition to the men's game. What we saw over the weekend, we talked to Coach Z. I talked to Coach Z last Monday, and he thought that Miami was the best team remaining. And Coach Z has a lot of credentials, and he made his argument, and I was like, you're right. Miami's got the most experienced head coach, and they got a team that's kind of been battle-tested here the last few years. But my goodness, UConn continues to just steamroll teams in this tournament. There hasn't been a single team that's been close, and these aren't slouches. This is Gonzaga. That Drew Timme was a non-factor in the Elite Eight. Mark Few has been in all these games. I mean, non-factor, right? No team has won more than Gonzaga in the tournament, I think, the last 5-6 years. No shot against UConn. And then Miami, I mean, UConn gets out to an early lead, and it was a wrap from there. So what did you see from that game?
I mean, I think that just domination. It's weird, right? UConn was a favorite going in. I think a couple people had UConn making it to the end. But this Final Four, this tournament has just been a bunch of crazy. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get each game. And I think with this game specifically, UConn again proved why they've been so dominant. They're well coached, they're deep, and they've got a bunch of players that are unselfish.
They got NBA players too.
Yeah, Jordan Hawkins, if I'm a Magic fan, he's been really helping his draft stock the last 5 games.
Yeah, and by the way, he played. Did you see the story about it? He had the stomach flu.
Yeah.
He had the illness, and he blamed it on some bad calamari the night before in Houston. But he goes out there and plays and leads him to a win. So he moved up my draft board because of that.
Oh, 100%. Now hearing that, in the game he had, he's had a great tournament. But again, I agreed. I thought Miami and FAU, again, I was completely wrong. I said I really liked FAU. I liked how they've been playing, and I liked Miami. And I thought Miami they've been battle-tested all year, and they've played some really tough teams. And UConn, again, has been really just sweeping the entire tournament. They haven't had one close game. So you went into it saying, will Miami test them? How are they going to test them? Again, UConn is a really high, good offensive team, but they can sit down and defend. They've proved that this tournament, holding teams to 50 points per game pretty much. So, again, it's no surprise, but then it's a surprise also because you had a lot of people that just assumed Miami would rise to the occasion. But it's looking like, in my opinion, UConn is probably they're just the best team right now at the right time.
And that's what Z had kind of told us. Miami had played in a lot closer games throughout this tournament, and he was trying to see what would happen with UConn now if they had to play a close game, which it likely was going to be because they opponent every opponent. It ended up they didn't really have to play a close game. I think that they're just that good. And by the way, UConn teams in general, I wrote about this yesterday, and this is just amazing to me. UConn, this is their 6th Final Four that they've been to, and they have 5 national. When they get to the Final Four, they don't lose. They have 4 national championships. They have 1 loss. They're 9-1 in the Final Four all time. So
that's insane.
From generation standpoint, and a lot of those guys were in the building, Rip Hamilton, Emeka Okafor, Ray Allen, Kimball Walker. Those 4 all national champions, right, at UConn. They were all in the building there, and how fitting. So this team, for whatever reason, when they get there, no matter who's the player, who's the coach, and Dan Hurley is an outstanding head coach, by the way, who in a family, by the way, where it's probably really hard to stand out, and he's managed to do that, so that's good for him. We mentioned Hawkins there, but even Alex Carabin had a really good game, and then Adama Sanogo, best player on UConn, another guy who, even though he's a junior, I think he's probably going to be maybe a top 20, top 15 pick probably. When we get to this draft, you can make that argument. Might be the best player left standing. But, yeah, I'm on the UConn train. It's a shame that we didn't get a Florida team in there because we were dreaming about, what if we get an all-Florida national championship game, right? And now Florida all of a sudden would be like a hotbed for college basketball. But it's still an accomplishment, and you alluded to it, the FAU-San Diego State game. We hammered home FAU the entire time, and, it seemed like for at least half that game, they looked like the team that had won the most games in college basketball this year, and something flipped there in that second half. What did you see in that one?
It's weird in college basketball, especially this tournament. It's weird how teams are coming out of the first half locker room. It's like night and day, and that was kind of what it is. It kind of looked like FAU thought this is much easier than we thought it was going to be, and we have this in the bag. And you could tell their defense just it took not as much effort in the second half. I saw San Diego State play live when they came to Orlando. I watched them play against Charleston. I was not impressed at all. At all. I'm like, okay, they're going to lose in the next round. Their defense is outstanding. They are a tough defensive team. They put a body on you wherever you are on the floor. I thought FAU, listen, they're incredible shooters. Their offense is insane. They lacked defensive effort in the second half, and San Diego State took advantage of that and really punched them in the mouth. And listen, at the end of the day, you lost on a buzzer beater. You lost on a last-second shot. So it's a heartbreaker because FAU had the game, but that just shows you, Nick, if they would have played the FAU basketball they were playing that first half for the first, 3 minutes of the second half, it probably has San Diego State has no chance because it's hard on offense for San Diego State. They really have to work for it. And I think that's where they really screwed up. They came out of the second half really flat, and San Diego State took advantage.
Yeah, and full disclosure, by the way, and I'll admit when I'm wrong on some things. Some things.
Really? I was about to say that you'd never admit that.
When you're around, I don't like to admit things that I'm wrong, but I will now for today. And everybody gets their brackets wrong, but I actually picked San Diego State to win 0 games. 0 in this tournament. I picked San Diego State to win 0 games. and they are in the national championship game.
What a weird weird. So weird.
I love it.
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, again, I had Duke winning it all. I thought they hit it at the right time. They lose to Tennessee, and just the teams that were doing it. It's like it's great for the sport. Now, some people argue, oh, the game's not going to get any viewers. Nobody cares about that matchup. Nobody knows the teams. Again, that's the greatness about this tournament.
That's college sports.
That's college sports. You have no idea who's going to win any game. You could turn it on and a 1 seed will lose to a 16 seed. Yeah. And that was the great. This is the first year in the last however many years that you really felt, I have no idea. Because this college basketball season has been so up and down of, we have no idea who the front runner is. There's a different number one every week. Houston probably was the clear-cut number one. They had him number one for the longest. But even then, listen, UCF fan, right? We've watched UCF play Houston multiple times. Watching them, I'm like, they don't really...
They're beatable.
Yeah, they don't look like a number one team to me. They're really good, beatable. So going into the tournament, a lot of people pick Houston. I'm like, this is the year where there's going to be a lot of upsets, and the Final Four is probably not going to be what everybody thinks it is. And that's what we got. So I think it's going to be a great game. And I don't know. Again, if we had to say, I think UConn just runs the floor. But again,
it's like I hate to keep picking UConn. I hate to keep going against San Diego State because every single round they've moved on, I keep saying, oh, they're going to lose. Like, this is it. Okay, this is the one. This is the one. And now I'm liable to pick them, and they're going to get steamrolled by UConn. That'll little be what happens.
They want you to pick UConn, Nick. San Diego State wants you to pick UConn because clearly
it's the easy thing to do, but it feels like the right thing to do.
It kind of is. Again, I could be completely wrong, but UConn just on another level.
But San Diego State, I'll give them this. They're really deep. Like, they have an 8-man rotation, and they had one guy in double digits in that game against FAU. One, Matt Bradley. That was it. 21 points. Everybody else was all around the 5 to in the 5 and 9 category. They all contribute. And to your point, defensively, they might be the best defensive team in the nation. I mean, what they did, I think what really sold me on San Diego State, and I say sold loosely because I didn't pick them to beat FAU, but what they did to Alabama and Brandon Miller, I think that was when I first said, okay, this team's a little bit better than I thought.
Well, in their defense, or not even their defense, I'll say Brandon Miller just had one of the worst NCAA tournament performances out of any top pick, and probably in the last.
And there's probably because there's a lot of things going on around him too.
Yeah, but again, I don't. You can put that as an excuse, but listen, again, Magic are gonna have a top pick. There's a lot going on with him besides basketball.
Yeah,
I'm not blaming that on the reason he was bad. I mean, I'm sure he's a great player. If you are one of the greats, if you are gonna be a top 3 pick, and you were great all season, you couldn't put up numbers against some of the teams you're playing in the first round. So yeah, San Diego, listen, he was bound to have a bad performance against San Diego State with the way he was playing. And it's credit to San Diego State. I mean, again, their defense, they switch it up. They put a body on you. Like I said, you cannot get anything for free. But the Bama game was one of the least surprising things to me. Because again, I'm like, if Brandon Miller does not perform in this game, it's gonna be a tough day, and it was. But they're an insanely talented defensive team. The problem is, like you said, can they score enough, and can they defend well enough against a UConn team that's putting up 80 a game?
And also too, I will say, as much as a storybook that it would have been for Dusty May and FAU, I don't think that the storybookness of the San Diego State has gotten the same amount of run.
No.
And I think it's actually a really cool story because what people forget is in 2020, this team was 30-2. They were going to be a number 1 seed in the tournament that season before COVID came and shut down the entire tournament, right? Yeah. Who knows what happens then with Brian Ditcher's team? And here they are. They continue to just chip away at it. And they get in this year as a 5 seed, I believe they were, right?
Yeah.
And, they had, let's be honest, they had some breaks go their way in the tournament. Some of the big boys, they were on that side where all the big boys all kind of went out, and it just became kind of crazy for them.
Yeah.
But again, that's how the tournament goes. That's how the tournament goes. And it's not easy for any team to win, even if you're a number 1 seed. So I just think in general, this tournament, as we're on the night where it's going to come to an end, unfortunately, it has represented the great hope that college sports can bring. And it's one of the things that, people have this discussion with football all the time, and I think it's very much so apple to oranges. It's believable for the 120th ranked basketball team to knock off the number one. It just, for whatever reason, it is. In football, those stars matter a little bit. And that's why I've always been when everybody gets all mad about, oh, it's the same 4 teams every year. My rebuttal had always been, well, beat them. So beat them, and if you're so mad about it, somebody beat them. Why is the solution got to be we got to open it up to everybody now because we're upset about the same teams getting in there? Beat them. But it is hard not to see this a little bit and kind of go, and even in this year when you saw TCU in the national title game, now it was what it was, but they got in there, right? Even as a smaller player.
Yep.
It kind of represents that great hope, right?
It really does. I mean, the college game has always kind of been like that, but the big boys always kind of made a way to get there and to at least get to the Sweet 16 and made the best team win. I mean, you really haven't had a Cinderella win the national title. And let's be real. I mean, these two teams, it's not like they're Cinderellas, but it's not like they were the 1 seeds either. I mean, you got a 4 and 5 seed in the final. So, yeah, I prefer college basketball playoff-wise. I mean, because, again, it is that great hope. Like you said, anybody can win on any given day. And I think the last couple years, it's become more evident of that. I think the players have a little bit more belief coming into games than maybe it was 10 years ago, where they say, listen, we can beat these guys. Because basketball, you don't need to be better in general. You just have to be better on the day, right? You don't need to have the 30-3 record, but play nobody. And if you just show up on that day, and you're better, that's all that matters. So it's a fun sport. I love college sports. I love college athletics. And it's sad, like you said, to see it end tonight. But hopefully the least we can get is a really good final game. And hopefully tomorrow you're not talking about the refs ruining it or a bad technical foul or any of that stuff. Hopefully we just have a clean, good game and the refs don't, try to take over.
Yeah, I don't want to have to come on here tomorrow and talk about there being 50,000 fouls and all this controversy. Just give me the buzzer beater from Saturday with San Diego State. Can you just give me that in this setting and have it be clean and fair and let's move on?
Don't care who wins. Let's just have
I
a good game.
Really care. Let's just have a great game. I will say these 9:20 start times are outrageous. Outrageous. Okay, 9:20 Eastern time.
And it's not like we're playing in LA. It's in Houston. It's literally in Houston. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? No. It's insane.
I don't need 9:20 Eastern time. They did this with like the national title games for football. I'm serious. Like 2016 to 2020, that stretch, I don't think I saw the ending to one national title game. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to stay up till past midnight on most nights.
Yeah.
So, or at least when I'm not working, rather. Yeah. But I never saw the ending of these games, but they started so damn late.
I don't understand why they have it. I get if it's on a Saturday. I understand that.
Yeah.
It's Monday night. People got to work tomorrow. Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't understand it. I don't know what the deal is.
The solution here, and I'll always vouch for this, for the Super Bowl, for certain events, the next day off needs to be a completely worldwide day off. We don't need to come to work. We don't need to do any of it. That's what really needs to happen.
I agree.
We need to, not even just the Super Bowl. I mean, for all these big events.
No, that'd be great. I mean, I think a lot of us have been asking for that pretty much for our entire life. So
I mean, I had to come in today, and we got to do this show and everything. And I mean, and we'll get to this when we come back from a break. But last night was WrestleMania.
Oh yeah,
I'm a huge wrestling fan. I know you are as well. You watched it. I watched it. That's what I was doing last night, which also went super late. Kind of rude there.
2 straight nights, super late.
Yeah,
I mean,
2 straight. I've consumed way too much wrestling this weekend. Like, I watched Friday night, I watched Saturday night, I watched Sunday night, tonight is Monday night, and this is always the greatest Raw of the year. I've consumed way too much wrestling. Casey is about done with me.
I bet.
Of taking up the entire living room for the last 3 days. She's probably going to hate it when I tell her that I have to watch it again tonight. But I'll report that tomorrow. But again, like we said, when we come back, we'll kind of recap what happened specifically in that main event, because I know it's got a lot of people fired up. Am I going to be fired up? Is Sean going to be fired up? We'll find out when we're back.
Confusing and expensive. I mean, where do you start? Which companies can you count on to pay out fast and fair? Well, call the great folks at Italiano Insurance. It's a family-owned business. Jeff and Nat Italiano are carrying on the 60-year-plus tradition of giving amazing customer service and giving back to the community through their annual backpack drive for needy students and their support of the local pediatric cancer patients. But it's the customer service that sets them apart. They can shop all your insurance needs and save you big-time money. Don't hop on the internet and waste time looking at some bogus reviews. Talk to knowledgeable agents and not some voice-generated robot. These are confusing times for homeowners, and Italiano's team of experienced professionals can provide the right coverage for every situation: home, auto, business, life. It's Italiano for all the pieces of your life. Call 813-877-7799 or go to italianoinsurance.com. Well, Fitz the mortgage guy did it again. A listener heard his ad, was going to another big bank, but called Scott Fitzgerald at American Mortgage Services of Tampa, and Fitz saved him $618 on his monthly payment. Are you kidding me? Folks, that's big money. Rates are going up, they're going down, they're going all over the place. Scott will shop your loan and save you lender fees and get the best rates. Email him, scott@amstampa.com, or call 813-294-7595. That's Fitz the mortgage guy. Lots of stuff going on right now, and these rates are going all over the place. You need somebody knowledgeable in the market that will work hard for you and get you the best deal. That's my man, Scott. He's done 3 loans for me, done thousands of loans for local folks here, works with a lot of the coaches and players in the area. He's the guy. 813-294-7595, or go to scott@amstampa.com. JP here for the Jeeves Law Group. Have you been injured in an accident, in an auto accident, truck accident, motorcycle accident, at work, or at a place of business? Well, call the Jeeves Law Group and get the personal attention that you deserve. I made the mistake many, many years ago with going with one of the bigger law firms, the national law firms. And let me tell you, getting a call back from those folks was next to impossible. Weeks and weeks would go by. Never get a call back. That doesn't happen with the Jeeves Law Group. Personal attention is what they're all about. When you call the Jeeves Law Group, you will be part of the family. They will represent you in a vigorous and aggressive way against the insurance companies. These larger companies will promise bigger settlements, but it's the Jeeves Law Group that will get you the best results. If you're tired of dealing with these bigger law firms, check out the Jeeves Law Group. Go to jeeveslawgroup.com, tell them JP sent you, get a free consultation. It's the Jeeves Law Group. Scott Jeeves has been representing clients in the Tampa Bay area for over 25 years. Give them a call. It's a free call, 727-894-2929, 727-894-2929, or go to jeeveslawgroup.com. Hey guys, JP here for the Gold and Diamond Source. There is no better place to shop for jewelry than the Gold and Diamond Source. We know that. They are the family jewelers, and they will treat you like family. It's always a fun experience. Just head on over there. You will not find a better selection anywhere in the world. It's a jewelry super center. They've got engagement rings, necklaces, earrings, pendants, chains, and thousands of diamonds to choose from. They're all right there. They don't have to ship anything in. They have jewelry for every price range as well. Guys, if you're looking for some of those baller watches, they have a great selection. They have new and used. You can get some great collectibles there as well. And if you're looking for some more affordable gold and diamond jewelry, you have to check out the Emily collection from Emily Johnson Weintraub. Emily created this collection for people who want to wear and stack elaborate jewelry but don't want to pay the big ticket prices. You got to check this stuff out. The Gold and Diamond Source has plenty of options to accommodate any budget, interest-free financing for up to 5 years, and a layaway program, 20% down and only 6 monthly payments. And this month only, get up to 15% off the March birthstone, which is aquamarine. Like we always say, keep it local, folks. The Gold and Diamond Source, Julie and Steve Weintraub, such great philanthropic benefactors. So let's keep it all local here when we have the opportunity, right? It's the Gold and Diamond Source, 3800 Olmerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com.
Pure sports. JP is back on.
Welcome back.
FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here on a Monday, recapping everything we saw from, again, another crazy weekend in sports. And we're going to get into another big event that took place here now in just a second here with my friend Sean Green, who's been awesome here filling in for JP today. Once again, brought to you by the Jeeves Law Group and Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Chris Lugo going to join us in about 30 minutes here at 11:45. And also a reminder, Kevin Weiss from Locked on Rays is going to join us at 11:30 as we get a little bit more into what happened with the Rays on opening weekend. But the event, again, that we are talking about now is WrestleMania, which is it's the Super Bowl of wrestling, I guess, if you will, right? The showcase of the Immortals. And this was the biggest WrestleMania of all time. Triple H, Paul Levesque confirmed that last night with the gate and everything factored in. 2 nights. It felt like a big deal, but we have to jump, Sean. We have to jump. We got to start backwards, right? We have to go to what we saw last night. Close to midnight, I want to say, is when this ended. The main event of night 2, Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. And Roman goes over on Cody Rhodes. Roman goes over, and there's a lot of people that have some strong reactions to what took place, right? Yep. It's Twitter, you know. I'm going to start with you, Sean. Give me your reaction first, and then I'll give you mine.
Yeah, so I watched wrestling for years, but I kind of took a break for a couple years there. And this past year, I really picked it back up because, you know, I thought the Sami Zayn bloodline storyline had really been killing it. And it really got me back in because I thought what they were doing is something that you just don't see. I don't think people understand how tough it is to have a year-long story be this good. So I was in the camp that probably many people were, that I wanted Sami Zayn to face Roman Reigns at Mania. Mm-hmm. I was in that camp, and I thought WWE handled that poorly by having that match a pay-per-view early and push over Cody Rhodes. Now, I'm a Cody Rhodes fan. I think he's incredible. The match was great. I really liked what they did. I thought the night before, we can get into that too, but I thought that was a little bit better than last night.
Agreed.
My problem with it, and Triple H said it after, right? He said, oh, you know, because people were saying, you know, you probably have the biggest baby face, 2 of the biggest baby faces right now in your company, and you had a chance to put him over big time, and they chose not to give Roman another however many months, however many days as champion. And he said, well, this is just a chapter. There's more story. The problem with that is WrestleMania has always felt like the bookend of the year and then a start of a new chapter, start of a new bunch of stories. I know you have Backlash and SummerSlam, which kind of usually, for the most part, keeps the same matches depending, but that's what it kind of felt like. This next part of the story, this next chapter, better be excellent. It better be great. Because what do we always say? Don't make a sequel, don't make a third movie if it's going to suck. And I feel like you had the perfect chance to wrap it up in a bow and move on, and you didn't. So I understand it. Roman's the big-time guy of the company. You just sold the company. You want Roman to kind of be the face still. And I think the only chance and the only way I can think of it is you're either going Jey Uso to kind of wrap it up like you started. Rollins, I think Rollins really deserves a shot. He's been busting his ass for years. And that's maybe it on the stories that would really excite me. I keep Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in there, but I think you had a perfect opportunity to put your top babyface over, and you chose to stick with Roman Reigns, which more power to you, but I hope the story continuing is better.
I had zero problem.
I knew you
Roman
didn't.
Reigns winning that match.
Of course.
I had zero problem. In fact, leading up to it, I was taking notes of what I was seeing on TV every single week, and I got the feeling, I'm like, Roman's going over. I'm not trying to be one of those guys that says I saw it coming, but I saw it coming. Okay, let me break that down for you. Not once on the road to this WrestleMania did Cody have to overcome anything. He overcomes nothing. I like my baby faces to overcome stuff. Not much did he really overcome.
Solo.
I'm just going to put that out there. Okay, sure. But in fact, I don't think that the Bloodline ever really beat up on him like they did other people. They didn't do that to Cody. No. I saw Cody cut promos with Paul and cut promos with Roman and have matches and stuff like that with certain talent. But he didn't overcome anything. And this is my problem with the whole Cody story. He came back. He had the feud with Rollins, and he gets hurt. He comes back, wins the Rumble. It's complete. And if you want to win the Rumble, that's fine. But coming out at 30, announcing it beforehand, I went,
yeah,
it's a little too predictable for me. And then you mentioned the Sammy story. I was in the camp after Rumble. Okay, I want to see Sammy because the pop that he got, that was the natural story. I like stories that are built naturally, not forced. And I felt the Cody story was forced upon me. And that has nothing to do against Cody, right? Because the crowd was with him. The crowd was absolutely with him. But I felt like if Cody would have won, it would have been one of those things where it was, if not Cody, who else? That's who I thought of. Because there's nobody else in this roster, in my opinion, at the moment. Now, there's a couple other guys that are lingering a little bit that I'll get to. But at this moment, nobody's made enough to honestly dethrone Roman. But I feel like Cody needs more odds, and I think that's going to make it better. His story's not over. Everybody thinks the Cody story just ended yesterday. It's dead. Yeah. It's not over, okay? Every great babyface has to overcome something, go through loss, defeat, things like that. This is his first loss since he's been back, right? You'll build some sympathy for him. You'll let it boil a little more, and then I think you redo this at SummerSlam. The original SummerSlam, the original story with Roman began at SummerSlam in 2020, right? Have it end 3 years later there. I always thought there was more meat on the bone here. And even if it's not Cody, by the way, it could be Jay. I mean, the story began with Jay and Roman. It could be Jay, for all we know. Could be the guy. Is that believable enough? I don't know. I think if you really wanted to milk this for a while, and this would require like another year's worth of build, I think Solo could be a guy. I think Gunther could be a guy as well. That would be very believable.
Yeah.
Right? I think Rollins is a little too, like, he's been around for a while now. We've seen him and Roman before. I do agree that Rollins needs to be in something more important, in my opinion. But I don't think Rollins is as over as people think. I think that music is helping prop him up a lot right now. So I'm not sure if there'll be like a groundswell for him to beat Roman. Now, there was for Cody, there was for Sammy. But I felt it just in particular, and they were never going to put the belt on Sammy. I just felt with the Cody, and everything I just said, I thought it was a little too forced for my take. So that's why I had no problem with Roman winning. And let me see the layers of this, because I'm not ready for the fall of the bloodline yet. I'm not ready for that right now.
It's the best story that in my opinion, that they've ever told. I think
at least in 2 decades.
At least. And I agree with you. And we've talked off air where I would text you and I said, I can't believe they're doing this. Like, I think they got me the last month to really buy into Cody. And my whole problem with it is, okay, if you're going to pick Cody, then you better just pick him. Because, like, we went through a year of putting Sammy over, the fans wanting Sammy, to really just slap him in the face and say, we're not putting the belt. And I understand why you don't put the belt on Sammy. Completely understand. Love the tag team title match. It was the best match of the weekend by far. The story, everything. 100% agree with you. I don't think they're giving the belt to Cody at SummerSlam. I don't. I think because there's no other guy right now. It's either Cody or bust at this point, or Jay. But you really have to build up the Jay, starts to really despise Roman. They've already started that. They already have. But if Jay beats Roman, that to me is not believable. I mean, it's not. Because then if Jay was this big time, can beat anybody, then he would be the most over besides Roman in the bloodline, which I think he is because of his acting, his storytelling ability. Then you should have left the tag titles on them. But if he's this big time.
I do think, though, Jay and Jimmy would have a gripe with Roman, and this is why I was a little surprised they got involved last night. Because when I saw the match the night before, I went, where was Roman?
Or Solo?
Where was Solo? Where was Paul? I thought that was going to be the next evolution to this story, and it might be, and they might be telling it a different way. But I thought it was obvious. It was like, okay, they dropped their titles after a 400-plus day reign, or 600-plus day reign, sorry. And there was nobody there to help them. But for the last 2 years, what have they been doing with Roman? Protecting him, helping him win the title. They did it again last night, even after they lost the belts. So I was a little surprised by that. I thought that was going to be the natural gripe, to where if Cody had won that match, and then they now have 0 titles, that would have been the gripe where, like, Roman feels sorry for himself. Maybe that Jay and Jimmy didn't get involved, and then they could use it against him. Well, where were you the night before?
Yeah.
I thought if Cody went over, that would have been the story, and that's intriguing, by the way.
Yeah, and to do Roman and Jay at SummerSlam.
That would have been intriguing. That would have been intriguing. But just to act like this is like, oh, they did it again, they screwed us over, and this and that. I'm not going to scream and yell, because Cody is not the champion, okay? Roman has earned this to stay champion as long as he wants to, in my opinion. The company, it's business. It's a business decision too, I think, as well, to keep it on Roman. I just want it to be, in my opinion, if you're going to have a champion of this long, 1,000 days, okay, today is 1,001. if you're going to have that champion for that long in the modern era, I want everything to be perfect. Perfect when we take that belt off of him. And I thought Cody at this moment was just a tad too forced for me.
And I agree. I do agree with that. And that's not a great. I think a good way to take this, honestly, Nick, and I think, again, who knows? This story has had so many weird twists and turns. We have no idea where it's going next. But I think a really good way to go about this, you have Backlash. Maybe the Usos don't necessarily help at Backlash, and there's a little bit of animosity there. Maybe I like your idea. Maybe Roman loses the title at SummerSlam and Jay doesn't help at all. Jay actually helps Cody maybe, and then it's a road to WrestleMania type of thing. You kind of have an idea it's going to be Roman and Jay at WrestleMania next year. So we'll see where it goes. I don't know. I think there's so many twists and turns because you already know Sami and Kevin are still going to be involved. You don't know who else is going to get involved in the storyline. I don't think too many people. I think it's going to be pretty contained with the people that's in it right now. But yeah, I really like that they're going to continue the story. I just hope what they have is going to match and keep leveling up what they've already done. Because if it goes down from here and people aren't loving it as much as they were loving it, you can't complain necessarily, but you could say you should have just wrapped it up in a bow and continued it a different way.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people saying that they've grown tired of this reign. And again, you hear this all the time that wrestling fans are like the most fickle people in the world. It's like people beg for long-term storytelling. They beg for all this stuff, right? And then they get it. And then because the guy that they love to win doesn't win, and then we all, freak out, we angry tweet. But you know what we do? We still watch. You still watch. None of you are tuning out. You're going to raise hell that he didn't win, and you're going to tune in tonight.
And here's my question. Okay, say Cody wins. Okay, then he faces Roman 1-2 more times. Who's after Roman? Who is Cody going to face that really keeps you invested? Right now, absolutely nobody.
Gunther.
Yes, Gunther.
Based on what they did at the Rumble, they had a full match in there at the end. There is a lot there. Oh no, and take it back. Actually, if he can get healthy, a returning Randy is money because of the story.
Yeah,
that's a natural story.
We don't know how long Randy has.
I don't know if Randy's even going to come back because of this back injury.
Yeah,
but if he does come back because of the legacy, you put Randy as a heel, perfect.
And the triple threat Intercontinental Championship match was the second best. In my opinion, I ranked my top 5. That was the second best match of the weekend for me.
Best match of the weekend. What was your one?
Sami and Kevin. I think it just maybe the match, the storyline, the way it kind of happened and ended. Mm-hmm. I had a personal investment in that. I think match as a whole, the Gunther Sheamus Drew McIntyre match was the best match. Like
they laid their shit in.
100%. Because I was working the Magic game, and that match was on, and I probably didn't cut clips for maybe 4 minutes because I was so invested in the slaps. I'm like looking at their chest. I'm like, well, this is getting really good. Like I can't keep my eyes off of it.
Yeah,
but
that's like the one match that I would probably if I had to ask people, like if people came in and said, hey, I really don't like wrestling, or I've never watched it. I think it's like the F word or whatever, and they think negative of it. I would show them that match. Because
so let's go do it. Let's do that.
I would show that match and look at the chest. Look at the chest of Gunther in that match. Look at the chest of Sheamus and of Drew. I mean, did you see the picture of Sheamus and Drew after the match? They both
it's insane.
And they just completely they just had to take 20 minutes just laying on their back in gorilla.
Well, because I know Drew McIntyre's contract is up, so I don't know how. I think up at WrestleMania or maybe a little after. So if that was his last match in the WWE. What a way to go out. What a way to go out.
Bravo. But yeah, I like that. I thought Rey and Dom was fantastic because, again, the story. I love the matches that have the stories. Rey and Dom was great. Rey Mysterio felt like Rey Mysterio again. I thought Charlotte and Rhea, I tell you what, I don't know if you'll find a better women's match than that one. Ever. Seriously. Yeah. And there might be better ones that have happened at other places, but to me, the greatest matches are the ones that happen at WrestleMania because you remember it.
Yeah,
that to me was the greatest. They felt like they were really pissed that they didn't go last that night because they felt like they probably wanted to, but the story with Sami and Zayn and Kevin was too great. So, but I thought they had the best match maybe of night one.
Yeah, maybe of night one. Night one just had so many great matches. I mean, the Rollins-Paul match, I think.
Spectacle. Yep.
Yeah, but listen, and that's, I know the big question right now is celebrity and, should they be allowed in WWE? Like, I know there's a lot of animosity backstage.
Because the McAfee thing was, to me, I didn't need that. I didn't need that.
No, that was a filler for the before the main event.
How about Shane blowing his knee out? Oh, my God.
It looks so bad, too. Good for Snoop Dogg, though. I mean, want to know, bro. But, yeah, that was, I'm not gonna, there's no karma, but it's like you need to hang him up. No more surprise.
I think that's it. I think that's it for Shane. He's like 52, I want to say, and that's it.
And you'll see him one more time because I don't think his ego can take blowing his knee out like his dad in the last time he's in the ring. Like that, I don't think he can handle that. But what a night. Couple nights. And hopefully the night's just as good.
All in all, I thought it was a great 2 days. Exceeded, like I said, biggest WrestleMania from a gate. They put 161,000 people in SoFi Stadium for 2 nights. Just a fantastic event. Whatever you thought about the main event, you loved it. No matter if you hated the winner, you loved the main event. If you didn't like that, you don't like wrestling. End of story. That was a storytelling masterpiece. But we'll tie a bow on that conversation. It was good to talk some wrestling. JP can't stand. 100%. JP is one of those wrestling cynics. So I get this in here while he's gone. I'm sure he'll hate me for it. But anyway,
he should get slapped on the chest. Let's see how
he feels. But anyway, when we come back again, Kevin Weiss of Locked On Rays is going to join us. Was this the perfect weekend for the Rays? Can we use the word perfect to describe it? We'll chat next with Kevin Weiss.
Experiencing those feelings of getting older, lower sex drive, fatigue, hot flashes, moodiness, or you just don't feel like you had the vitality you once had. It's a chronic problem here in the United States. You're not just getting old, it's likely low testosterone. Studies over the last 20 years show a shocking decline. (977-3477) or go to BAMMC.com. Tell them JP sent you for priority scheduling. That's 844-977-3477 or BAMMC.com. JP here for the Jeeves Law Group. Have you been injured in an accident, in an auto accident, truck accident, motorcycle accident, at work, or at a place of business? Well, call the Jeeves Law Group and get the personal attention that you deserve. I made the mistake many, many years ago with going with one of the bigger law firms, the national law firms. And let me tell you, getting a call back from those folks was next to impossible. Weeks and weeks would go by, never get a call back. That doesn't happen with the Jeeves Law Group. Personal attention is what they're all about. When you call the Jeeves Law Group, you will be part of the family. They will represent you in a vigorous and aggressive way against the insurance companies. These larger companies will promise bigger settlements, but it's the Jeeves Law Group that will get you the best results. If you're tired of dealing with these bigger law firms, check out the Jeeves Law Group. Go to JeevesLawGroup.com, tell them JP sent you, get a free consultation. It's the Jeeves Law Group. Scott Jeeves has been representing clients in the Tampa Bay area for over 25 years. Give them a call. It's a free call, 727-894-2929, 727-894-2929, or go to JeevesLawGroup.com.
Pure sports. JP is back on.
Welcome back.
FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here. Got about 30 minutes left here on a Monday, breaking down everything we saw this weekend, and we're going to keep it moving here as we are joined by Kevin Weiss of Locked On Rays. Kevin, how you doing today?
Doing well. Feeling much better after a Rays sweep, albeit against the Tigers, but hey, still 3-0. I'll take it.
I know a lot of people are like, I've seen it in the comment section this morning. They're like, oh, big whoop. It's the Tigers. We're not going to get excited about it. And I'm like, listen, I don't care if it was against the Athletics. I don't care if it was against a little league team. I'm taking a 3-0 sweep to start the season, and I'm taking a 21-3 run differential. I mean, just overall, I've been using this today. Is this as perfect as a weekend you could get opening wise for the Rays?
Yeah, just about. I mean, they really impressed themselves and I think showcased what this team really could be. Maybe they are better than everybody expects. I know that, typically the projections and prognosticators don't rate the Rays very highly in the offseason. Everybody says 85 to 88 wins. Well, maybe this team is a 92 to 95 win team. And, everything from the starting pitching to the bullpen to the offense, it was really all clicking and all working together. And best of all, at least to my knowledge, I don't think anybody got hurt or there were any major injuries, unless I'm missing something there. So that's going to be a key going forward, just being able to stay healthy. And I think it's so important. I mean, the games count in April. The games count in late March, I guess, technically too. But anytime that you can rack up wins and, whether it's a good opponent or bad opponent, hey, it doesn't matter. You still, it's all about getting wins on the board and racking those up. And if you can do it early on against the Tigers and then the Nationals starting tonight, that gives you a little bit more breathing room down towards the middle of the season and end of the season. If, God forbid, you go through a slump and have a rash of injuries and, different things happen. And that's going to happen over the course of 162. But, I just don't, I don't get the people that are like, hey, big whoop, it's against the Tigers. No, it was a really, really impressive series for the Rays. Okay, maybe I get it if, the Rays sweep the Tigers, but it's all one-run victories. But no, they absolutely punished this Tigers team.
Yeah, I really didn't think it was close at all. The Tigers bullpen definitely did them no help, or even Turnbull on Saturday coming back from Tommy John wasn't great. But for the Rays, to your point, I mean, the schedule makers too. I mean, you should be thankful that you start the season with the Tigers, you go to the Nationals, and then you get the Oakland A's after that. I mean, you can't ask for a better, and I'll give you a good example. It might have been 2021 or it might have been 2021, I want to say. Was that the year that the Yankees, I don't think they won the division because of the fact that they lost like majority of their games against Baltimore, right? When Baltimore was no good. I got that correct, right? 2021?
Yeah, that sounds about right, where the Rays just totally went roughshod on the Orioles. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my point. It's like, you got to win these games too. Because in that case, the Yankees had a really good year and the Rays won the division because they beat the Orioles and the Yankees just couldn't do it. So, I absolutely agree with you. I'll go into what we saw yesterday, though, most recently, and that was Jeffrey Springs. No-hitter through 12 Ks, no hits given up. Only the third pitcher since 1901 to do that, which have all happened in the last 3 years, by the way, which is very interesting. But Jeffrey Springs, he had 14 shutout innings in spring. He got the big contract, and he's rewarded the Rays so far here, albeit on a small sample size. But what do you think's changed for Jeffrey Springs this year that's allowed him to become an even more effective pitcher?
Yeah, I don't know if anything, at least from the naked eye, I don't know if anything changed majorly in this start compared to what he was doing last season. Last season he was, pitching like a number one or a number two, and it's just continuing off of that and building off of that. And to your point, it's the Rays have enough confidence and enough ability or what they think in Jeffrey Springs' ability to merit a 4-year contract extension. But it's the changeup. The changeup is really, really a game changer for him, and he can play the fastball off it. The fastball can play off that, and then he's also got that sweeping slider versus lefties too. But what you saw in that start against the Tigers is, because the changeup is so dangerous, he got a lot of called third strikes on the fastball. And again, the fastball isn't necessarily anything to write home about. 92, 93 miles per hour seems relatively straight for a four-seamer, but you have the opposition thinking changeup, and they just get all turned around and tied up with the fastball. And before you know it, I didn't have time to take the bat off my shoulders. And it's also the control and command with Springs as well. It's just, hey, I need a pitch up and in, right where the catcher's glove is set, I can put it there. Down and away, right where the pitcher's mitt is set, I can put it there. So really, really impressive stuff. And the way and I hate to go back to it, but again, the way that the fastball and changeup complement each other and work off of each other, the 10, 11, 12 miles per hour differences between those two pitches, yet he has the same arm speed. He has the same easy, repeatable delivery where you literally don't know what is coming out of his hand. So I think that really is what's so special about Jeffrey Springs, and you hope he's able to continue it over the course of the season. Again, he's never, last season we showed how deep and how many innings he can pitch. Now it's the time to repeat off of that and build off of that. I mean, you hope that with a fat contract now that he can be a guy that you can rely upon to give you 140 to 155 innings. And hopefully that's the case for the rest of the starting pitching staff, from Shane McClanahan on down to maybe not Tyler Glasnow this year, but Zach Eflin and Drew Rasmussen.
And that's the scary part. And I talked about this earlier. It's not news necessarily anymore that, hey, the Rays are being disrespected by X media member or X, media company, right? But, I was so harped upon the beginning of the season because you see all these lists always come out, and how much do they matter? None. But MLB.com, they did their top 10 rotations. I'm not sure if you saw it. And the Rays weren't even in the top 10. In fact, they had them at 12. And I'm sitting here trying to rack my brain. I don't even know if I can make an argument that there's 5 rotations, let alone 11, that are better than the Rays. After this weekend, 17 innings between McClanahan, Eflin, and Springs, 1 run given up. That was it. And think about it, too. We just talked about how great Jeffrey Springs was last year and what he just did. He's the 4 in the rotation. He's the 4. And Rasmussen, who's probably a 2 on a lot of rotations around the league, he's the 5 when Glasnow gets back. He's the 5. I mean, at this point, Kevin, is it ignorance at this point to continue to downplay how good this team is pitching, especially with the rotation? Or what is it, you think?
Yeah, it's so funny. I guess part of it is the national media just doesn't yet know the name Jeffrey Springs and doesn't yet know the name Drew Rasmussen. I think they know Glasnow, of course, but he's been frequently injured. Shane McClanahan is starting to get a lot of play, of course, after starting the All-Star game in the year that he had last year. I think, it maybe takes a couple years to really build up that momentum and build up that pedigree. And then I don't think people are talking enough about what Zach Eflin can and should provide for this Rays team. Again, the $40 million man, the Rays have never given that type of money to a guy in free agency. So I would fully expect him. I know a lot of people were talking about it in the offseason. Oh, well, you can plug in Zach Eflin as your number 3 or number 4. I think, the Rays maybe have bigger expectations for him. But yeah, I just think that's a little bit of part of it. And yeah, you make a great point about Jeffrey Springs and Drew Rasmussen. I mean, Springs, yeah, he's basically the Rays number 4. I think on a lot of teams, he'd be their number 2, if not a number 1, depending on how good or bad the team's rotation is. And we can even go beyond that. I mean, that's what's so special about this Rays pitching staff is, if you get in a pinch, we'll see what Josh Fleming can provide. We'll see what Luis Patino can provide. We'll see what Yonny Chirinos can provide. Before long, I would imagine Taj Bradley would get some sort of opportunity here and there. And this is going to be, I would think, a Rays team that has more of that traditional starting rotation where you don't have to play the game of bullpen days and openers and, hey, only 2 times through the order. I would fully expect a lot of these starting pitchers to go 6 1/3, 7 innings as we get deeper into the season, and maybe, rely, crazy thought, I know, but maybe not have to rely as much on the bullpen as in years past because you have such a top-notch rotation 1 through 5, or if you want to go 1 through 6. So that's something I think that the front office and the coaching staff and the players are looking forward to as well. And maybe that's a part of the disrespect in the national landscape of, the Rays do things so quirky and differently. And, hey, can we really consider this guy a true starter? Even, he's only going, 4 innings, 5 innings at a clip. So, there's always going to be that, I guess, level of disrespect. But I think that with, of course, the Rays going for now what would be their 5th straight playoff appearance. And we're hearing more scuttlebutt about Wander Franco. And I think that, and of course, Randy Rosarina as well. And I think, hopefully the idea is you get talking about those 2 players, then that bleeds off to the rest of the roster. Oh, did you also know that they have a guy named Tyler Glass now and Shane McClanahan? And that man, Jeffrey Springs, has really put things on. And it just goes on down the line. So just having one or two superstars can make a difference for getting into the spotlight, if you will, for the rest of baseball.
Yeah, I completely agree with all the points there. And that's why, like, when people were kind of pessimistic, and I went through waves in the offseason where I felt a little bit pessimistic, and then I felt really optimistic. And I think what talked me into feeling better about this team was, okay, I know they're going to pitch. And I think they might do it at an elite rate. And so far they have. And that's why I think they're probably going to be a 90, regardless what the offense does, I think they're going to be a 90 to 95 win team. But last question for you before we let you go. Speaking of the offense, 21 runs in 3 games, not too bad. You'll take that on any series, right? What stood out to you the most about the offense, maybe the approach of these guys? What was your takeaway?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because it can't be ignored is the way the offense came out firing. I know sometimes it takes a couple weeks or a month to really get heated up. Maybe part of it is the Rays did open this series in the Trop as opposed to a cold weather city. We'll see what they do in Washington. I don't know what the weather or the temperature is going to be, but sometimes that has an effect as well. I know last year, I think the Rays, basically started off the season very early on in Chicago, and a lot of Rays players nobody is used to that, or it doesn't do any help when you're trying to hit the baseball. But I think one thing, just Wander driving the ball, lifting the ball, I think that has been an emphasis for him since he made his debut. He makes a lot of contact. He's got great approach and plate discipline, but he has a tendency to kind of bury the ball in the ground and in the dirt. So being able to elevate it and showing power the other way was really, really impressive. And just generally with the rest of the lineup and the roster, I think having that, I'm going to smack the ball up the middle, whether it's waiting on an off speed or bringing the hands in on a fastball and just punching it out over the second base bag, not trying to do too much when you have runners on and just keep moving down the line. That was really, really awesome to me. And we saw so many guys do it, from Taylor Walls to Mejia to Siri to Wander. It was really a clinic as far as that's concerned. So those were a couple of things I saw.
Yeah, it was a collective effort, and I hope they can keep it going. I feel confident they can against Washington and Oakland after that. But, Kevin, let everybody know how they can get your content over there at Locked On Rays before we let you go.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Nick. Locked On Rays podcast. We're on YouTube. Just Google or search Locked On Rays, and then we're on all other traditional podcasting platforms, also Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Rays as well.
All right, he's Kevin Weiss of Locked On Rays. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today. We will talk to you soon, hopefully after a few more Rays victories.
Yeah, absolutely. Go Rays, and hopefully they continue this winning streak.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That was great. I'm so excited about the Rays this year. Like I said, I got more optimistic as we got here, and they proved everything that I was hoping for in these 3 games. So that was definitely very exciting to see. But let's switch gears completely here, and we're going to welcome in Chris Lugo from Modern Medical Center. Was off last week, unfortunately. Awful circumstances. I heard Chris. I don't know how much you wanted to get into it, but how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, Nick.
Because I know it's probably been a crazy week for you.
Yeah, it has, but there's worse things in life. So
that's a great outlook to go off of. That's a great outlook to go off of. I'll just tell you up front right now, I'm now 2 weeks back from the honeymoon. Last time we did talk, I was telling you about all this food. Like, I've gotten back into the swing of eating food made in America, and I've tried to be a lot more kind of aware of what I'm eating. I have tried, okay?
And
Casey has helped me out. I keep falling back into some of the traps, and it's not working out. It's not working out. This food sucks, and I know Sean's here, by the way. This is Sean Green. He's filling in.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, Sean. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You can kind of fill in, Sean, and maybe some of the other listeners, again, these differences of this food that you eat here and the dangers of it.
Our food chain is different from every place else in the world, basically, unless they're getting food from us. But because we do feed the world. The gluten allergy thing is very small. Some people say they have a gluten allergy. It's more gluten sensitivity than anything else. So the FDA, the EPA allows our farmers to do a lot more to our crops than everybody else in the world. Everyone else has that little bit more of that TLC approach to when they're actually growing stuff. We don't. The European Union does not allow their farmers to do nearly as much as we do. So the food that we ingest, and I'll have patients all the time, I'll have clients all the time tell me, I can go to Europe and I can eat a loaf of bread and my stomach doesn't bloat, or I can eat a bowl of pasta and I feel fine. Why is it when I'm here, it's different?
Yeah.
Because the flour is different. All the stuff that we eat here is much different. So I think that it has to do with more of a certain sensitivity than anything else.
Yeah, and I will say we did change things up last grocery run. We went to Trader Joe's, which Casey swears by, and I Bleav you recommended that before. And I can just tell you this first week of eating food that we bought there and being more diligent about how we're preparing it and things like that, I have noticed a change. It's only whenever I go outside of that stuff, right, and you eat out or something like that, it seems like my cycle gets completely thrown off. I mean, it's just nuts.
Correct. And I'm not always going to say, I want you 90 to 95% effective. I don't want you being 100%. If you're 100%, you've got some issues going on. We can always chat about those. But you're going to want to go to some places where you're going to want to indulge yourself. My son's lacrosse game, after the game, we went to walk-ons in Midtown. I killed a hangover burger. It was a lot. I felt miserable, but it tasted delicious. So I'm not going to tell you, oh my God, you could never eat that. Never going to come out. But as long as you're 90 to 95% effective, enjoy yourself. Life is not worth living if you're too strict.
Yeah. I will, though.
Repercussions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've learned those the hard way. I will say, though, Chris, I don't recommend, and I think you would agree with me this. On Saturday night, I was out way too late, and I was forced to going into this place called Shula Burger there on Howard.
Okay.
At 2:30 in the morning. I'm just going to put that out there. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't eat a burger from Shula Burger at 2:30. Anything to good to come from that.
Okay.
So I think you would agree with Froome there. So definitely do better. Everybody do better, including myself, of finding the right food.
You got it. Definitely. It's easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're Jones for a Krispy Kreme donut. Enjoy it, but just realize you're going to have to be a little cleaner the following week.
Yeah. And then some other stuff, too, I Bleav you wanted to talk about the new stuff with the healthcare and insurance. So what do you have to say there?
I get asked all the time, why do you not take insurance?
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of pause. I tilt my head a little bit to the side. I say, well, insurance hinders everything we do. I took insurance for the longest time. I had to pack the office. I had to have a waiting room. It's that stereotypical, you're going to go to one of these large facilities, Baycare, Advent Health, TGH, Florida Medical Clinic. All these private practices are being bought up left and right by these big conglomerates. Mm-hmm. Now you're a number. You're no longer the same. So back in the day, we'd see 40, 60, 70 patients in one day. That's obscene. You're getting 5 to 10 minutes with a patient. That's not enough. And 10 minutes is like a really complicated patient. Okay. Normally, I spend an hour with my clients because I want to find out everything about them. What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Hey, I came in for weight loss. Why are we talking about sleep? Sleep's huge. We talked about sleep before, right? So I'm more comprehensive than everybody else. A lot of us facilities who are fee for service are more comprehensive than seeing Joe Smith at Baycare or seeing Joe Smith at Florida Medical Clinic or at Advent Health. Because you're only going to get maybe a profile while they're typing stuff in.
Yeah.
You're going to run away with a whole bunch of prescriptions. And for a guy, you're going to go back home and Casey's going to say, well, Nick, what'd they say? Did you ask him about? Well, I forgot. What do you mean? Because you're rushed out, right? So you're waiting 45 minutes in the office. You're about 10 minutes in a cold room. You're walking out. Hey, by the way, you're going to get charged a level 4 visit because that's how they make money on. You're going to get, only paid a $30 copay, but guess what? You get a bill for another $110 a few weeks later. You're going to pay me $175, but guess what? You're going to get an hour with me. You're going to hear me sound like a broken record. Do you have any questions? 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 Not because I'm bored, because I want to make sure you don't have questions when you leave the office. And if you do, guess what? Email me. I'll respond back to you. Call the office. I'll respond back to you. You're not getting that level of care this day and age. So the pendulum's swinging back the other way. I think you're going to see more people taking more fee for service and getting away from, especially when you want that one-on-one. Hey, I feel like I'm getting listened to.
Yeah.
when you're not getting listened to the other places.
And truth be told, that's the big reason why. Like, if I even have something going on and someone tells me, "Oh, you probably should go get it checked out at so and so," I go, "But
I don't want to go.
I said, I'm just going to waste my time.
Right.
Majority of my time is going to be sitting in a waiting room, just getting pissed off that I'm not being seen anywhere close to my time that I'm supposed to go in. And then you go in there, and like you said, they're not even looking at you. They're typing away. I'm questioning how much this person even knows. And then they give you a bunch of, let's be honest, BS. Like Casey, like my wife gets sick all the time, and she goes up the road to, I think, an Advent Health or whatever there in Lithia. And she comes back, and I'm like, well, what did they tell you? And she's like, well, I don't really know. Or she'll tell me, and I'm go, that's it? That's all they
want to be back in 2 weeks. What? Really?
Yeah. Or I've gone before, like when I remember once I had like really bad like chest pain, and I felt like I needed one of those like EKG I think, is that what it's called, right?
Correct.
And I went in and like I had an appointment made and everything for weeks, and I go in and they tell me, as I get back there, they're like, so what are you here for again? And I'm like, I told you over the phone. And then they tell me, oh, well, our machine's not working. So I've wasted weeks of my time trying to get in. So I agree 100% with the frustrations there. And I take it, obviously, it's a lot different if they go see you.
Yeah, if your appointment's at 10:45, you walk in, you're seen at 10:45. If not, it's because you're late. That's the reason why. So on-time appointments all the time, same-day appointments when you need to, seen on the weekends, after hours. That's what fee-for-service gets you compared to what you're going to get at Baycare. Hey, I can't be seen for 4 to 6 weeks. Are you kidding me? My issue's going to be dead, or I got to go to the emergency room. And then you're going to spend how many hours in the emergency room? Mm-hmm. Most of my patients come see me at lunchtime, right? Because they'll take their hour break at lunch. They're back. Hey, I need to get back to the office. I'll get you in and out in 10 minutes if that's the case. Or not, we can sit and chat, to find out really what's going on.
And what's the best way for listeners to get in touch?
BAMMC, Bravo, Alpha, Mike, Charlie.com, or call the office, 844-789-2266.
All right, Chris, I thank you so much for coming back. Glad to see that you're doing a lot better this week.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Last week, and we'll talk to you next Monday.
Thanks, Nick. See you, Sean.
See ya.
All right, thanks, Chris. All right, as we come to the end now there, very insightful stuff there from Chris every single week. I hope you learned a little bit there, Sean. Since we've had Chris on, I've learned a ton about food, nutrition, health, wellness, all those things that I have neglected in my life for a long time. But hope you learned a little something there.
Yeah, I got to come back on next week because I have a lot of questions. I need to ask some questions because I'm into sugar. That's like my biggest pet peeve is I have at least one thing of sugar every day. I know I got to eat the fast food. Like you will go get McDonald's. I don't do McDonald's. I make food at home.
Hold up. I have to cut you off there. I didn't want to tell Chris this because he was going to be really disappointed with me. But I have a McCafe right
I knew you went to McDonald's. I'm like, you lying? I'm like, oh yeah, he's eating so good.
Not to make a cup of coffee this morning before I left the house, and the Dunkin' lines, the Starbucks, it's just completely way too long. There was nobody in line here. I was like, all right, whatever. But I didn't just get a coffee.
Oh,
of course I did.
Of course not.
Of course I did. But I had to break it up because it was the damnedest thing I've ever seen today. I see something new at a drive-thru every time I go through.
Yeah.
This lady that was running the drive-thru, right? She's taking orders and she's like giving the food out. I go up to the window and I see an iPad sitting at the window. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. I thought maybe this was how they did something with pay. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for my food and I'm hearing noise. She was watching a movie on the iPad, and I looked and she had headphones in and everything, like one pod in, watching a movie as she runs the drive-thru at McDonald's this morning.
She's got her job down pat. I mean, what can you say about it? That's pretty impressive, to be honest. I mean,
you use impressive. I think it's stupid. First and foremost. If this was heavy lunchtime and you were doing that,
I don't. But who knows if she's doing it during heavy lunchtime?
And this happened to me at Wendy's. And it must be Gandy Boulevard. It must just be a Gandy Boulevard thing because I went to a Wendy's across the street probably a few months ago, and I never go to Wendy's. Like whatever, I never go to Wendy's.
I stay away from Wendy's.
Same thing. I got to the front window, and the line was taking forever. And the lady that was running the thing, she had her phone up to her ear, and she's doing everything with one hand. It's not like she was talking to her boss or like a worker. No, she was having like a full-on like drama conversation while running the drive-thru.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you about the quality of food that I'm getting from there?
Well, if I'm going to be honest, again, I don't go to Wendy's. That's one of the lowest quality you can get. If you have had a good experience at Wendy's, please DM me and tell me, because it's been years. I don't go to Wendy's because every time I go, it's at least a 20-minute wait through the drive-thru. The food you're missing something. You're either missing an entree or a side or a drink. You're missing something, and then you get home and it's not that great. So I don't go to Wendy's, Nick. That was your first mistake, is going there.
Yep. And before we sign off here, I'll just read this comment here that we had. Chris is so right. I have a friend who was seeing a Baycare doctor who did treat her like she was a number. She went to another doctor who didn't take insurance, and within minutes was like, ma'am, you're in an urgent situation. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. And he says he's going to play that interview back to his wife. Thank you so much. Continue to spread the word. Chris is fantastic, and the only way to go for your medical, nutrition, wellness needs. So it's a great learning experience every week. But that will do it for us today. Hey, breathe. What a week! What a weekend in sports! What a Monday! So much we got into. We talked about wrestling for 20 minutes today. That'll never happen again, probably on the JP Show. I doubt it, but I enjoyed it. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I know Sean enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me, Sean. And who knows? Maybe we'll see you a little bit later this week.
Maybe, potentially. Who knows?
We just might. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'll be back tomorrow. Potentially, we'll have JP back tomorrow, and we'll continue to go over the Rays tonight in Washington, the Lightning. Maybe we'll get some Bucks news, some national stories as well. So we will see you tomorrow.